Good morning, everyone. Did you know that the majority of our world's population lives in cities? Do you live or have you lived in an urban place? Do you see yourself as an urban person? If so, how do you relate to nature and to the environment? For those of you sitting here today, did you feel your mood brighten when you caught a glimpse of the Yukon River on your way here? Or is nature something distant that you prefer to avoid? Perhaps you have mixed feelings, or it depends on the kind of nature in question. I want us to think for a moment what interaction exists between city life and nature. This question seems to be burning now more than ever, but when we think about it, we didn't invent this interaction. The relationship between city and nature was born together with the first urban civilizations on Earth. So today, we are going to explore this interaction in one of the earliest urban cultures, in Asian Mesopotamia, in what is now Iraq. We travel back 3,000 to 4,000 years. Already at this early stage of humanity, we find cities centered around monarchies, temples, institutions, and advanced administration. But despite being an urban culture, Mesopotamia maintained an intricate relationship with its natural surroundings, particularly with the waterways that were essential to survival and allowed life to emerge and thrive in this region. Today, I'll focus on one natural habitat that played a pivotal role in Mesopotamian life. This is the marshes or the swamps, what we call in Hebrew, bitza. These wetlands dotted the Mesopotamian landscape, and they were often located nearby cities. But if you try to imagine living nearby such a swamp, I assume you'd feel a bit uncomfortable. Those of us who grew up with a Zionist education have to debunk some of the ideas we have about marshes. We were taught that marshes are dangerous areas, and we were raised on the heroic tales of Zionist pioneers that drained them. However, time revealed a different truth, and today we know that the drainage project caused much more harm than good. Marshes are vital ecosystems, and they host diverse flora and fauna. So, we are setting aside our own bias for today, and we return to Mesopotamia, where the symbiosis with the marshes can offer us a fascinating case study of human-nature interaction. Marshes had a role in the very birth of writing. Texts were inscribed on wet clay tablets using reed stylus. Both materials are found in the marshes. In addition, wetlands held sacred significance. Ritual objects like reed standards, deeply connected to the holy marsh, featured prominently in religious ceremonies. Marshes also provided essential materials like reeds and plants, fish and water, increasing abundance. But they could also interfere with agriculture. They could cause damage and even destruction. By studying this multi-layered relationship, we can gain valuable insights into how did Asian people perceive their natural environment. To explore this question, I turn to clay tablets inscribed with texts from the remarkable corpus of Mesopotamian literature. If this is the first time you hear about Mesopotamian culture, you might wonder what their texts have to offer. Well, the elite of the society has produced an extraordinary legacy, writing countless texts in Sumerian and Akkadian, collectively known as cuneiform literature. These texts encompass myth, epics, rituals, prayers, daily records, and they offer us a rich window into the Mesopotamian world. Simply put, this culture was fundamentally rooted in the written word. In my research, I collect attestations and references to marshes. Rather than confining myself to a single genre, I follow the current of the marshes. Wherever a text mentions them, I delve into it. I analyze the instances. what the text communicate, how the marshes are described and portrayed, what layers of meaning can be extracted by examining contexts, by comparing different texts, and by integrating approaches from cultural and literary studies. I aim to uncover the role that the marshes had in Mesopotamia. So now that we are well prepared, I want us to set off on a boat and sail right into the marsh by exploring two examples. The first example comes from a hymn to Ninurta. Ninurta is a mighty warrior, a powerful deity, and in this hymn, he is pleaded to grant help to those who are losing the battle, those who are helpless. I will first read the two lines in their original language, Akkadian. Shaina utsi itluputi, shakima tsutsi, lamua brati, nurunamru eli pashili, andulaka tu shatrats, which means, he who is interlocked in arrows like a pile of brushwood surrounded in the swamp, O bright light, stretch your shelter over the crawling one. A man is in a combat. He is on the ground and there are flying arrows crossing over his head. He is in great danger, perhaps even wounded, trapped in a deadly zone. And he is compared to a pile of brushwood surrounded in the swamp. Okay, let's unpack this metaphor. Here is a pile of brushwood. It is a mix of sticks and twigs, usually used to start off a fire. And this represents our helpless fighter. Now imagine this pile in the midst of the marsh. It is soaking in muddy water. It is enclosed by tall reeds growing thicker and thicker. And there is no way to find it. It is doomed to be abandoned. Which means that our helpless warrior has very little chances of survival. Only Ninurta, the mighty god, the bright light, could delve into the darkness of the marsh to find this pile. Only he can save our helpless warrior. This short example highlights two key points. First of all, the marsh is a place where things can get lost, forgotten, and abandoned to their own destiny. This is an image that we know from other literary compositions where cities are turned into swamps and boats sink in the marshes. But in addition, if I were to ask you to come up with a metaphor for a warrior losing the battle, I doubt any of us would come up with this particular image. This is because only those who live nearby marshes, only those who have experienced or heard stories about how things get lost in the marshes can come up with such a detailed image. So this passage shows us how the marshes were observed and how their physical properties were used to draw images and metaphors. I want us to look at another example coming from a Sumerian myth. This myth takes place in the marshes. The marshes serves as the key location of the entire story. Enki, the wise god, spends his time in the marshes where he spots young deities. His desire awakens, he falls for them, and eventually he sleeps with them. Let's read. Enki cried out, "Lay down for me in the marsh, that would be joyous." Enki distributed his semen, and she conceived the semen in the womb. A sexual encounter takes place in the marshes. Throughout the entire narrative, the marshes are charged with sexuality and desire. In addition, this is the place where the goddess conceives. It is the setting where the semen mingles with the female body. The marsh is a mix of water and mud, right? So these two examples shows us quite different interaction and perspectives on the marshes. Is the marsh a place of sexuality and desire, or is it a place of loss? The answer must be very nuanced. Whether it is a location of a mythical story or a metaphor, it is approached with a high awareness to the physical properties that are turned into qualities. It means that in Mesopotamia, nature was observed and articulated into the text. When we look at the literature, we do not only focus on how nature physically appeared, but how this ancient urban culture perceived it, how they saw it, and how they shaped it in their own eyes. Today, as we're deeply engaged in human-nature interaction, perhaps it is worthwhile to take a journey back to our past and to read what those who have been here before us have written. Thank you very much.